Welcome back. Do you go to a lot of movies, Paul?
Well, I do. I like to watch the latest movies.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Um, but I want to
Yeah.
talk a little bit. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit, Paul, about the impact of wokeness upon the entertainment industry, because you started to see a shift in entertainment in Hollywood movies pushing woke agendas, starting maybe around 2017, especially as you got towards COVID. And you've seen a lot of backlash as a result of that, and movies that they thought would be highly successful have started to bomb because of it. And now you see Hollywood kind of moving away from some of that again. We've not actually done whole videos on wokeness, so maybe I want to go back and redefine terminology here. So originally, the idea of wokeness was to be alert and aware of issues of social injustice, particularly with regard to race and gender. But then as time went on, various people started jumping on the woke narrative, and you started to see this kind of twisting of what it meant to be woke. But there are about two or three things that I don't like about modern day wokeness. And one is it goes beyond just looking at issues of social injustice, which I think you and I agree with that aspect of wokeness. We want to confront issues of social injustice, particularly with regard to race and gender. We support that aspect of wokeness. But what it's turned into instead is let's demonize or attack entire people groups in order to build up the people who have traditionally faced discrimination. So, for example, it's not about confronting racism as much anymore as it is about confronting whiteness or white supremacy culture. Or it's not anymore about confronting sexism, but it's about tearing down the patriarchy or referring to masculinity or masculine traits as being toxic. So you're demonizing masculinity, you're demonizing whiteness, you're demonizing entire people groups or entire cultures. And the second thing that I object to about wokeness, modern day wokeness, is that it sometimes wants you to affirm things that just aren't reality. For example, if a man feels like he's a woman, it's not just that he feels like a woman, but he is a woman, and you have to call him a woman, and they're going to force you to call him a woman and use that person's preferred pronouns. And they're going to force that and impose that on you, even though it doesn't conform to reality. Identifying as a woman is not the same thing as being a woman. And the third thing I object to modern day wokeness is is that it embraces oftentimes things that are unhealthy. So, for example, if you warn somebody about obesity because obesity is unhealthy, you are called fat shaming. Or if you warn girls, hey, don't dress that way because it'll attract men who are dangerous, then you are accused of being slut shaming. So you can't warn people about dangerous behaviors because if you do, they will accuse you of shaming them or attacking them when all you're trying to do is warn them that, hey, those things are dangerous. And we've talked about all this before. Before I get into how it's impacted entertainment, I don't know if there's anything you want to add about wokeness to provide some clarity to what we mean by the term. You're a psychologist. You may know a little bit more about this than me. So, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't think I know more than you as a psychologist. Why? Because this wokeness and all these agendas, they are more your thing in the West. They're not our thing here. I know they influence people in the corporate world in Uganda, but on the grassroots, it's not a big issue. It's just something people do from 9 to 5, and after 9 to 5, people don't care about those things. We just have to sell face in the corporate world. That's how I understand. That's the picture of wokeness in Uganda. But yes, the idea of wokeness was ideally to about inclusivity and representation. You have to sum it up. So it's basically about inclusivity and representation, though now it has gone beyond. Yeah, it has gone beyond. It's now encroaching on our own entertainment, on the soul of, let's say, football, the soul of sport, because now it's more about passing a political rather than us enjoying the story in the movie or us enjoying football and the talents. It's more about passing a message. So when you find that a political message is weighing more than the actual entertainment, then it loses meaning. Then no wonder people are boycotting watching some movies, and people are fighting against this thing in sport as well, because it takes away the soul of entertainment.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head of what I want to discuss and talk about. Because I think there's a difference between having diversity in movies, which I don't think people object to, and trying to use movies to push an agenda. And I think for me, the whole woke thing and entertainment started with Star Wars. When the new Disney Star Wars movies came out, I think the first one was 2015 with The Force Awakens. You had a very diverse cast. You know, you had a woman in the lead. You also had a black actor. So you had diversity, and it was one of the biggest it was the biggest box office success in the US. It made $900 million at the American box office, and I think over $2 billion worldwide, and people didn't object to that. The issue came, however, when you got to The Last Jedi, which went beyond diversity to pushing an agenda. For example, they stuck a character in there, Holdo, who didn't have any place being in the movie, except that they wanted to create a strong female character. And when she was challenged about, hey, do you have a plan? How are we going to get out of this situation? She wouldn't say anything. So it caused the other characters to go off and try to fix it on their own, which blew up in their faces. And then they come back, and so all of a sudden she reveals that she does have a plan, and they should have trusted her. So you've got this strong female character that doesn't even belong in the movie. She has no place of being in the movie because she wasn't in the previous movie. And nobody seemed to know, like, well, who is this person? You know, like, you just got off this planet from the previous movie, and now you're in these spaceships, and this woman comes out of nowhere. Nobody knows who she is. Well, you were just on a planet with her. How do you not know who she is? Well, they just stuck her in there just to kind of get the representation, and it ruined the story because it didn't make sense in the context of the story. And so what I'm finding happen is, starting probably in about 2017 or 18, Hollywood started to inject agendas into movies, and the story started to revolve around the agendas. And so then you started to create bad stories because the stories didn't make sense, because the stories were serving the agenda. Now, if people want to have diversity in a movie, I don't think that most people are going to object to that, because I think there's a perfect example of it going on right now. There was the movie Supergirl, which bombed. And if you look at this movie, you have a strong female character. There's no romance. The actress bragged about how there'd be no romance. She doesn't need any man. You know, she's a strong, independent girl boss, which is another woke entertainment trope. She can conquer anything. And she spends the first half of the movie getting drunk and telling this other character whose family was murdered not to seek vengeance, because if you seek vengeance, it'll destroy you. She convinces her at the end not to seek vengeance on the villain in the movie. But then afterwards, the villain says, this is a spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen this movie. So if you don't want to know how Supergirl ends and you want to see it, stop watching now. So spoiler alert. This is the ending of the movie, okay? So the villain says, do you think you saved her? And she says, no, but this is for my dog. And she kills and gets vengeance, because what happens early in the movie, her dog gets poisoned. She spends the whole movie trying to get the cure for this whatever that was injected in her dog that this villain has. So she gets revenge because he tried to kill her dog. And then all the people around her are cheering like, yay, good girl, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, whatever happened to the whole vengeance is going to destroy you, don't seek vengeance? James Gunn and the people at DC Studios are attacking the fans and calling them misogynists and saying that, well, they don't like this movie because it has a strong female lead. And people just, men don't want to see strong female leads. Well, the problem with that argument is, what about Wonder Woman? Well, what about Captain Marvel? You know, it's made over $1 billion worldwide. Wonder Woman made over 800 million worldwide. People want to go see those movies. And if people have a problem with diversity in movies, why is the Odyssey such a big success? You know, the Odyssey is another movie that was criticized by some because it's historically inaccurate, because it has racial diversity at a time and in a place that wouldn't have had that racial diversity, but they put it in. So they put that diversity in the movie. Like, for example, Helen of Troy is played by a black actress. So the diversity is there, and it's a monster hit. I mean, the movie's probably going to make over $1 billion worldwide. It'll be one of the biggest movies of the year. And people don't object to diversity. They just reject if you try to use a movie to push an agenda on them so much that you are creating bad movies and then expecting or demanding that they like it because, hey, this pushes some important message. You know, you need to accept it for that reason, or you're a bigot, or you're a sexist, or a misogynist if you don't. But people want good entertainment. They don't care if there is a diverse cast. They don't object to that. They only care if you're trying to push an agenda onto them and give them a bad story and expect them to like it because it sends a message that they want to send. I'm talking a lot.
Yeah. Nice as well. Literally what we're seeing is that stories are becoming secondary to the message. You know, we forget about the story and then we focus more on the message that you're trying to pass over, the woke message, literally. And like you said, the world is not against, let's say, a diverse cast. That's not the problem. The problem is trying to force a diverse cast into a story that's not for it. You know, I think there's a movie I recommended to you once of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, something like that.
Yep.
It was 2018, I don't know, I forgot the time. It was a female. I think she's called Scarlet Witch or something like that, and she was so strong. But people didn't complain about it. She was the villain in the movie, but she was very powerful and very everything. And the movie still sold. It was good, you know? So I don't think the world is against female leads or black leads or whatever. It's about, does the story make sense? Does the story flow? Is it fun? Other than just patching it up to pass a message. So we're focusing more on the message, the political message, and then we're forgetting the storytelling. People go to movies to relieve themselves of stress. People go to movies to have fun. Because, like I said earlier, it was like more satire when I said it. The woke agenda is alive in Uganda from 9 to 5 in the corporate world. Outside that, no one cares. No one cares about those things. The woke agenda is alive in Uganda from 9 to 5, and only in the corporate world where there are cameras, where the white man is watching because he has funded the project and these things. But in reality, whether man or woman, no one cares about these things after 5, because most of us, we revert back to our traditional Africanness. Life goes on. Now, imagine I'm having a 9-to-5 job and I'm dealing with all these work nonsense at work, only to come and watch a movie at the cinema. I'm paying my money and I'm coming to watch a movie, and again, I find the same nonsense in the movie. It is very disappointing. It's very disappointing. So, so people are not against diversity or inclusion or whatever. People are just, they want something. They're tired of this. You're trying to push it down their throat. Mm-hmm. It is well.
Yeah, and I think that you mentioned Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which is a Marvel movie. Up until Endgame, Marvel movies were excellent. I mean, probably some of the best movies ever made. Endgame, I think, is one of the best movies ever made. I put it on at least on my top 20 list. I have a top 20 list of my favorite movies, and Endgame is on that list. I wouldn't quite put it in the top 10, but it's definitely in my top 20. But after, when you start to get past that, when you started to get past the COVID era, you started to see Marvel movies deteriorating in their quality because what was happening is the stories were being sacrificed for the sake of slipping in these political and social agendas. And now Marvel movies don't make nearly as much money as they used to until, I'm going to quote that guy, I forget his name, that always says until the new Spider-Man movie came out, brand new day. No woke agenda in any of it. It's just a traditional straight Spider-Man movie. And it's going to be the biggest movie of the year. It's a monster hit. It made $72 million on preview day. So that's the day before the movie opens. In the US, they have a preview day. $72 million on the preview day before the movie even officially opens on its opening day. Because that's what people want. They want to see they don't go to the movies to have an agenda shoved down their throat. They go to see a movie because they want to be entertained.
So I think that the message you're trying to pass is that the representation itself isn't necessarily what the audience is rejecting, rather it overtaking the storytelling, it overtaking the spine of the movie, the soul of the movie, and then you're trying to make sure you see it. You know, when they overdo it, then it loses meaning. Wakanda has black people and
almost all women. Wakanda Forever was almost all women. It was almost entirely into female cast, and that was another monster hit.
Yes. So are we noticing that Hollywood is moving away from being too woke, and are they becoming less woke? Because you mentioned the Spider-Man movie.
I think there's an attempt to move back to just making good entertainment. But we'll see how that goes. I mean, a lot of movies even this year have been bombing. I think there's been a lot of other movies. Like there was one movie I saw called Disclosure Day, Steven Spielberg film. I think one of the things, another issue that you're having is you have people that have been making movies for a long time that are kind of out of touch with today's audiences. Like in the movie Disclosure Day, you've got a reporter trying to disclose on the news that aliens are real and America has been secretly experimenting on these aliens for years. And it gets on the news and it goes around and everybody's shocked and and movies like that are kind of out of touch because people generally don't believe the news anymore. You know, okay, that kind of thing might have worked in the 80s when all you had was the news. You didn't have the internet yet. But people don't believe what the news tells them anymore because they have access to so much information and the news has been caught telling so many narratives and so many lies. People don't believe what they see on the news anymore. So I think that's another thing is a modern Hollywood is also out of touch with modern audiences. They don't know how to connect with a modern audience because they're still living in the past. So either they're embracing a woke agenda or they're living in the past.
Yeah, so what I see, whether the producers are getting it right or not, in the end, the audiences are going to vote with their wallets. And that's the influence that these studios have to pay attention to because we are the audience, the Gen Zs are the audience. And if they are to buy the movie, they pay with their wallets, and that's the vote. Eventually, I believe the movie industry will get in line because if they don't get the money vote, then they have to kind of reshape. And the traditional entertainment is getting challenged by people like TikTok. Because people nowadays, the Gen Zs, they rather watch a 30-minute clip than watching a movie for 3 hours. Because I can be on my social media accounts and I'm just scrolling through for different genre, and I just watch something for 30 seconds and I'm entertained. But eventually, I think the entertainment world has to, kind of like adapt. There's this guy called, what's his name, Kaby Lame? Something like that, Kaby Lame. No. Who is that? The TikTok king? No. Charlie D'Amelio, something like that. D'Amelio. he's showing how life can be simple and how we're making it hard for ourselves. And this person has over 100 something million of viewing him. So you find that the new generation is actually shifting away from the traditional entertainment. I believe it can even reflect in, let's say, how many people go to the cinema and at what kind of age goes to the cinema. You find that the younger generation may not necessarily go to the cinema because they're entertained already on TikTok. They'll just watch someone dancing, making some stupid jokes, and life goes on. Even that always contributing to probably to even these movies bombing. So I was thinking about it this way: if these people do not they do not change on how they are doing the thing, you find that you have alternative entertainment, TikTok, X, all over YouTube. So you find that if I'm not entertained by the movies and they are over pushing work information to me, I'll just reject it and I go to my social media accounts and I follow. But at least the algorithm will pick the kind of content I like and I won't get the work agendas. It's another way of escaping. I think that's what is happening. Maybe just to wrap it up, ideally, the entertainment world is about the demand. And the demand is we the people are consuming. And it's the money that will determine which direction it takes. When the work agendas are being forced down people's throats, they will vote against it with their money. And then eventually they will have to find middle ground.
Our audience, we put it out to you we put this out to you as always. Please comment, give us your own thoughts on this. Have you seen any of the movies that we talked about? What do you think about why many Hollywood movies are bombing or have been bombing? What do you think the differences are between those that are successful and those who are bombing? Do you think our analysis of this is correct? So give us your thoughts. But in the meantime, I will see you later, Paul, and bye for now.
Bye.